Glad to see all of you here. And our today's speaker, Reshmabee, is calling from Oslo. Reshmabee is Agile Coach and Safe Consultant, and she is going to share today some practical tips from her experience with us.
Spotting bottlenecks early. So that's the topic for today. But before we start the session, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Reshmabee Mulla-Midjås. I'm originally from Mumbai, where I started my career after completing my computer science bachelor's degree. Started working for Here Technologies, worked there for almost 7 years, spanning multiple roles, starting as an application developer, then progressing as a project coordinator. Then I became a Scrum Master, Agile Coach. Then I became a release train engineer when I moved to Norway for working for Accenture for the past 4 years. I have taken the role of release train engineer and now safe practice consultant. Um, I'm also someone who's spent my entire last decade helping teams across telecom, healthcare sector, and location technology navigate the messy, beautiful world of delivery. So, for today's session, I have picked the experience that I learned from my last client engagement that I was fortunate to be part of last year. Um, I was coaching in the capacity of an agile coach, a product team for Telia. That team was very smart, uh, highly motivated individuals, but they had a problem. They were drowning in a lot of work. Their product backlog was exploding. So every sprint for them felt like a scramble. Um, Tasks were piling up, their reviews were late, and no one could explain why their velocity kept dropping. The worst part was the team lead, a very nice person, I believe. He was burning out. And I saw that the stakeholders who chose me for the role of this agile coach, they were losing interest in this team, a very important platform that they were creating for customer data. So for that team, I didn't introduce a new framework because they already chose safe. I didn't overhaul their tools. They already had existing tools. I just started looking at the flow because that's what, as agile coaches, we are most commonly keen to look at. So that's where I started. And I saw that the flow was where the work was getting stuck. I looked for signs like how long things were waiting and what conversations weren't happening. And within 2 months, they had reduced the cycle time by 30%, regained stakeholder confidence, and most importantly, the team uh, that was so motivated and passionate, they started feeling control over the system, over the work that they were doing. So that's what this session is all about. Not a big transformation. I won't be suggesting shiny tools. I will just share practical ways to spot bottlenecks as early as possible so that we can reduce the friction and protect our teams, their energy, even when we all feel we are busy all the time. Alex, can you move on to the next slide, please? So, again, we will stick with this product team experience that I am sharing. Every sprint, when they had the sprint planning, it started with a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. But by the time we came to the retrospective event, everything ended with frustration. Tasks were moving in the Scrum board, but nothing was finishing. Reviews were late. Um, Dependencies were unclear because it was a big platform migration that they were doing. They could not map the dependencies, could not find the right POCs, they didn't have a Rashi chart. And that team lead, a brilliant, empathetic person, was spending more time firefighting than leading. Um, I think what made it worse was the blockers. They weren't obvious. Um, I think for them, it wasn't big enough to escalate, but when I saw it from my analysis, I could see it everywhere. A task waiting for feedback, a teammate unsure who owns the next step, and a stakeholder asking for updates all the time to any random person within the team, to the product owner, to the scrum master. And nobody felt confident giving a simple response: yes, no, maybe, nothing. In terms of tools, they had a lot of tools that they were using. They were using Jira, they were using Slack, they were using Confluence. They had different dashboards, one in Miro, one in Excel, one in SharePoint. But none of these tools, none of these dashboards shared a view of the flow, how the value is flowing through the system throughout the iteration. And if I asked anybody, can you help me understand the picture, the whole picture? Everyone would give me a different perspective, different information of what exactly was happening. And this is what bottlenecks looks like today. That is what I have understood. They are quiet, but they are systemic, and they drain delivery speed. They drain our team's morale without anyone noticing. I think most stakeholders, they wait until trust starts to slip and the burnout starts creeping in. And I think that's one of the major reasons why spotting these bottlenecks, no matter how small they are, if we find them early, it's better for the team. But we should not misunderstand it as a technical skill. I think it's more of a leadership responsibility to identify bottlenecks as early as possible. Can you move to the next slide, please, Alex? So when I started mapping their workflow, a very simple workflow design, um, I started noticing something very strange. Tasks were being created by their AI assistant, whether it was backlog grooming, whether it was test case generation, even some code suggestions were being generated with the help of AI assistant. But the problem with this team was no one really was owning these items in the backlog. They sat in the backlog, they looked active because their statuses were changed once they were created, but they were never moving because they were never prioritized. And that's why the backlog was exploding. This is what I call invisible work that looks real, but it never flows through the system. Um, I also saw tool fatigue with this team. As I said earlier, they had different dashboards in Jira, Miro. Um, they had reports in Confluence. Updates were being shared in Slack. But no one in the team trusted any of these. Neither the dashboards, neither the reports, neither the updates that were being shared. Everyone had a different version of the truth, and ownership was very fuzzy. A basic question was asked, who's supposed to review this? Very simple. One user story was done. Automatically, in an agile team, you have already established the responsibilities. You know who is going to take it up because you do all this planning in the iteration planning or sprint planning, what you want to call. Nobody was ready to take up the user story for review. Who is responsible for this dependency? Because we have dependencies, we work in complex systems. Nobody was ready to answer a simple question. There would always be silence. And these are the bottlenecks of today, I believe. They don't look like block tasks. Um, they look more like ambiguity, like parallel work that no one's coordinating. For instance, this one, the AI generated suggestions, they dilute the focus. And when I surface these patterns, I didn't start by pointing fingers or trying to put blame on any one individual in the team. But I started surfacing these patterns with curiosity, and the team started to see the friction. And once I made them see the flow, understand how these patterns are hampering their flow, they started asking better questions. They started simplifying their tooling, and slowly flow returned for that team. Can we move to the next slide, please? So once I had surfaced the invisible blockers, the next step was to make flow visible. Not just progress, but how work moved. So I started with cycle time, not velocity, because that is something we already do in Scrum and Agile teams. Not with story points, because we already have that when we are estimating our user stories, but just identifying how long does one task take to go from start to done. And we didn't average it, we just looked at the spread. Um, we noticed that some tasks took 2 days, some took 14, and that inconsistency was a clue. After the cycle time, I introduced flow efficiency. We mapped how much time work was actually being worked upon versus just sitting idle. And I think there was one task that had 90% wait time. And for us and this team, that was a wake up call. The third one was cumulative flow diagram. It's not a fancy tool, it's very simple diagram. It's a simple chart that shows how work stacks up across stages. So, depending upon your team's dynamics and the way they're working, the stages can differ, but it can be as simple as in progress, to do, testing, and done. Depending upon your team, the stages can change. And we noticed that there was a bottleneck in the review stage. It wasn't a person problem, it was a visibility problem. The handoffs that should happen within the agile team, a cross functional agile team. And lastly, I added one more metric, team health signals. It is not a survey that the team has to fill, no mentee, nothing. Just regular check-ins. As an agile coach, a one-on-one session, maybe after the retrospective. Very simple questions I used to ask them. Are you feeling overloaded? Are there any blockers that are being raised? In Agile, we say that we are proactive, we are not reactive. So I used to ask in those terms, are we reacting or are we flowing? Which means one request comes or one ticket comes from the stakeholder side or any product management or business owner that please work on this on urgent basis. Are we doing that? That is being reactive. Or are we actually working on the flow, the value delivery? The plan that we committed to at the sprint planning, are we following that? Are we focusing on the sprint goal? So those simple questions I started asking the team, and those assessments I used to capture. No fancy documents, no surveys, a very simple health check. These metrics, all the four metrics that I just listed out, They didn't just give us data, they gave us a language. Um, they help the team talk about friction without blame. The more the team has trust, psychological safety, they open up. And the more they open up, we are able to streamline the flow. And that's when things started to shift. Alex, can you change the slide, please? So once this product team was able to see their flow clearly, I didn't jump into the next big change that I wanted to incorporate. I focused on habits, small experiment at a time, small repeatable actions that will build awareness and resilience. So I started by introducing weekly flow reviews. These were very short 15-minute sessions where we looked at the cumulative flow diagram and we asked simple questions. Where's work piling up? What's aging? So these questions helped us identify what were the blockers that was uh, acting as an impediment for the team or to the flow. This wasn't about blaming, it was just about curiosity so that we can streamline the process. Um, then we worked on the work in progress limit. Agile recommends that when we have our Scrum board in place, or if we have a Scrum plus Kanban board in place, we recommend that we have limit for each stage. That's called WIP limit. Um, this team had 17 active items across 6 people. So I don't think there is nothing to wonder why they've always felt chaotic. Um, we started using AI for the good this time to task or to flag stale tasks. And then with the help of AI assistant, team would gently get a nudge or a reminder when something, uh, the task or the item from the Scrum board wasn't moving for days. So we had reminder set for any task that would not move for 5 days. It wasn't perfect, but it helped. It was a starting point. Um we also changed the tone of stand ups. If you have been part of a Scrum team, you know the basic questions, standard questions. What did you do yesterday? What are we doing today? Are there any impediments? So I moved from those questions and started asking, where are we stuck? And I think that one question shifted the energy in the team. And the teammates, they started surfacing blockers earlier themselves without anyone doing any flow mapping all over again. And I think with this practice, the team lead also stopped acting like a firefighter and actually started facilitating. Mm, I think in the end, we made flow visible with a simple dashboard uh, that was not for tracking the performance of the team, but it was only for awareness. It was a very simple dashboard that showed WIP limits, flow trends, and aging items. I also added a little gamification. It is something I have done in my past organizations for celebrating team wins, small, big, irrespective of the size of the win. And here we started celebrating anytime the team hit stable flow for over 2 weeks, or if they were maintaining it for 2 weeks. We used to um, highlight it on the gamification board, and that made a lot of difference for the team. Um, these habits, they didn't just improve delivery. When in Agile we talk about delivery improving the health of the flow, we are talking about building autonomous teams. So when we incorporated these best practices, it gave the team a sense of control. And for me, in this situation or any situation, that's what spotting bottlenecks really do or are about. It is about helping teams feel less reactive, more intentional, and proactive. Because in Agile, we have to be flexible enough to accept changing requirements. Um, Real patterns from coaching. Can you please move on the next slide, please? So, the moment or at the point when this product team settled into better flow habits, we started noticing other patterns, not in their work, but how they had been operating before. Um, the first one is what I call invisible parallelism. So everyone was working on something. Everyone in the team, they had user stories assigned to them, but they didn't know what other people are doing in the team. That was a problem. There were three initiatives, there were five, six priorities, and more than 15 active tasks. All were marked of high importance. The result was context switching. The team had diluted focus. We say it in Agile, in Scrum teams, we have to focus on the Scrum goal or the sprint goal. That was not happening. And the team always felt that they are busy and never done. They are constantly burning out. Second pattern is stakeholder drift. The team was tracking velocity, but the stakeholders cared more about the predictability. The team celebrated finishing 20 story points, not an actual working software. That was a very big problem. And the product owner was still explaining why the release was late. So the metrics weren't wrong, I would say. Velocity is a good metric, story points is a good metric, but they were just misaligned. And when I started the agile transformation for this team, I shifted to tracking cycle time and flow stability because they are the ones that help us deliver value faster to the customer. Velocity is for predicting upcoming commitments. How realistically can we commit in upcoming iterations? They don't give any picture of how well we are delivering. So once we shifted the focus to cycle time and flow stability, the conversation started changing. We saw trust coming back in the team and within the team members. Lastly, we worked on the tool overload. They had dashboards scattered everywhere in Jira. They had reports in Confluence. They were sharing updates in Slack. And I remember there was the delivery lead had a custom spreadsheet being maintained manually. And I don't think anyone trusted any of these reports or dashboards. So we simplified it. We created only one dashboard, one source of truth, and we made sure it reflected what the team actually cared about, not just what leadership wanted to see. Leadership wants to see KPIs numbers. Team actually wants to deliver value to the customer. They want to see their working software being used by the customer. And that's what I shifted the focus on. Um, don't misunderstand that these patterns are unique to this particular product. I have seen similar patterns in all the projects that I have worked on. Asia, Oceania, Europe, all have similar patterns, somewhat similar patterns. Um, I think they are symptoms of teams who are trying to do their best in complex environments. But I think they are fixable when we start with flow. Alex, can we move on to the next one, please? So as the product team matured in their flow practices, we started looking forward how to better ourselves. Continuous improvement is what we aim for in Agile, not just for the next sprint, but at how they could sustain healthy delivery. Agile is uh, most suitable for VUCA world that's changing fast. So one of the biggest shifts we did was with AI, their assistant that they were using, that was already generating backlog items, suggesting test cases, even nudging task updates. But we had to ask, is this AI, this assistant, is helping the flow, or is it cluttering it? We learned that AI can be a flow multiplier, but we also accepted that it can only be used beneficially or can bring out benefit for us if it's embedded with intention. We had to do workshops with the team, train the team um, to treat AI or the suggestions that comes from the AI like a junior teammate input. Yes, it is useful, but it needs review. It needs ownership, and the entire team needs alignment on it. Otherwise, it just adds noise in the work that we are doing. We also talked about ethical metrics. The team had been burned before by velocity targets, burn down pressure, and performance dashboards. So we reframed metrics as conversation starters. Cycle time wasn't a score, it was a signal. Uh, Flow efficiency wasn't a KPI, it was a prompt. So this shift helped the team feel safe while discussing friction without fear. Um, Finally, we looked at the role of the team lead. No longer the person who solves every problem, but a person who facilitates flow, a person who creates space for blockers to surface, a person who helps the team see the system, not just the tasks. Um, I think that's the future of flow thinking. It's not about tools or frameworks, but it's all about awareness, building trust in the team, and leadership, most importantly. Leadership that enables teams to thrive, even when everything around them is moving fast. Can we move on to the last slide, please? So this is the last slide. I have shared almost everything about this product team. We have walked through their different phases, but I don't think I can say that this team did the agile transformation overnight, because they didn't adopt any new framework, or we didn't buy any new tool. What they did was start paying attention to flow. They started asking better questions stemming from curiosity, which led to innovation later. This made their work more visible. Um, they started building habits that helped them spot friction early, and that made them fix it before it became a pain point. For this session, I think these habits, these best practices, the realization of spotting bottlenecks with the help of flow diagram, I think that's the heart of this talk. But having said that, I think bottlenecks today are very subtle. They are very systematic. They hide in silence. They hide in ambiguity, or maybe in tool clutter. Flow thinking isn't about speed. Never misunderstand that. It's more about clarity, trust, and sustainability. We have to continuously deliver valuable solution to the customer. That is what we are aiming for. And lastly, it is the takeaway that I would like to emphasize on is the AI and metrics part and their composition, their combination. They complement each other, and only then it can be powerful. It needs to be paired with human insight, not by replacing human beings. As team leads who have joined today, or if you are engineering manager, scrum master, agile coach, product owner, I think we are not just with agile teams to deliver features. I think we are here to protect the health of the delivery, to make work feel doable, to help our teams feel seen, supported, and successful. So, if you want to start anything new in your teams, maybe from Monday, I would suggest you can start with the very simple question that I have used with my team. Where are we stuck? You can ask this question in your stand up, in your retro, or planning session. Where are we stuck? Because spotting bottlenecks early isn't just a delivery skill, it's a leadership practice. I have also created a small one page handout. It's not very beautiful, but I have created some bullets that you can use as a guide for spotting and fixing bottlenecks. You can use it as um, a checklist of signals to watch for, to look out for, and also a set of habits that you can start using from Monday. So, whether you are leading a squad, if you are coaching a team, or if you are just trying to keep the delivery healthy, I hope that guide will help you stay ahead of friction without needing heavy tools or frameworks. And you can tailor that guide as per your team setup. So once I give it to you, it's yours to adapt. And that's it from my side today.
Thank you very much, Reshmabee, for sharing all the insights. So I would suggest us to switch off the recording and continue with the discussion.